Entitled Mom won't watch her kids. They climb into the pasture with my horses. So I've referenced this story a couple of times to people and decided that I'd tell the full tale. I live in a rural neighborhood. Everyone's got 3 to 8 acres, so we're all pretty spaced out. I live on 5 acres, and my nearest neighbors are a sweet elderly couple about 1 acre from me. They're perfect. The husband does yard work as a hobby and his wife bakes. We have a nice agreement where if I need something big chainsawed, he takes the wood down and uses it for the fireplace. And in exchange, I trade recipes and bake with his wife. Honestly, they just like the company. I own my own home after horses, a cat, and recently my mom has also moved in because she was in financial trouble. I'm happy to help as she's good company, and I'd do anything for her. And then everything changed when COVID attacked. So here's where things go south. My neighbor's son and his family, wife and 2 girls, 4 and 7, live in the nearest city and didn't feel safe. I don't blame them, and because my neighbors are saints, they opened their home, and the brood moved right in. Up until this point, I was the youngest person in the neighborhood at 29, so having kids wander around is new for everyone. At first, it was no big issue. They stayed inside, got settled. Maybe they were good kids. Little long shot, I know, but a girl can hope. So one morning, I'm letting my horses out into the front pasture, a Clydesdale and a Welsh pony, and I hear the most high-pitched squealing from next door. It was so shrill my Clydesdale second-guessed going outside, but cautiously proceeded only to be met with more squeals. I pop my head out, and the 2 girls are literally losing their minds, and I get it. Little white pony and the horse from Brave, but still, they're large animals they don't know, so they should have the sense not to approach right, piffed. Not a snowball's chance in hell. These kids sprint to the fence shrieking. The pony runs around in panic, and the Clydesdale standard there with the same WTF look I've got on my face. Then the 4-year-old starts to go under the fence. Hell no. Don't you dare climb under that fence, said firmly, and admittedly kinda harsh, but I'll be damned if I have my horses mow over a kid. I walk over to them. They look like they're about to cry, but I explain firmly that they're big animals and could hurt them easily and to never go over or under the fence. They go home, I clean stalls. An hour and I hear someone banging on my home's door, and I can see through my barn's hatch door my mom and the kid's mom are having a conversation. The kid's mom then storms down to the barn. I've never met this lady, but I know an entitled parent when I see one. Joy of joys. She starts going off on me. How dare you make my kids cry? They just wanted to see the ponies. Blah, blah, blah. But when she takes a breath, I get my point across. Yeah, their youngest was crawling under the fence towards 2 large animals none of you know. That Clydesdale is a 2,000-pound draft horse. He can literally crush you, not feel it, and do permanent damage. The pony looks cute but needs an experienced hand, as he is very untrustworthy, flighty, and has a tendency to bite. Your children are not allowed near them without my consent and heavy supervision, and never allowed in the pasture with them, do you understand? She then starts ranting about, well, if they're so dangerous, why do you have them? Or are you even allowed to have them? I should call animal control that crap. 1, they're my personal horses. Yes, I'm allowed to have them. 2, your kids trespassed on my property. I'm trying to keep them safe. 3, this is not a petting zoo. She huffs off. I continue work. Later that evening, when the husband gets home, I explain what happened. He's understandably alarmed, and I explain how dangerous that situation is. He agrees. Not that my horses are aggressive, mind you, but it's inherently dangerous in general. You've got a 50 to 200-pound human versus an 800 to 2,000-pound horse. If you don't know what you're doing, you can be seriously injured. Pure physics. So I'm optimistic with his reaction, but no, he's often not home, so I stay cautious. Later in the next week, I'm working from home, and I suddenly hear screaming. Not excited screaming, scared little kids screaming. A rush outside, and a 4-year-old is bawling in the middle of the pasture. With the pony doing laps around the perimeter of the fences, my Clydesdale slowly approaches the little girl. The 7-year-old is crying outside the fence and calling for her mom, but clearly their mom is not watching them. My initial terror recedes a bit because my Clydesdale is essentially a golden retriever in a horse's body. Sweetest pushover in the world. He's gingerly approaching her in a slow, friendly way, and being as non-threatening as he can. And with him so close, the pony won't rush them. He's probably about 3 steps from her, but I yell for him to halt, and like a good boy he does. I make my way in with them and start asking the girl questions. Or you're being paramount. She's not, but she's clearly scared, so I pick her up and walk out, making my Clydesdale heel to me just in case the pony gets a dumb idea. The mom is still nowhere in sight, so I take them to my neighbors. What precedes is about 30 minutes of screaming and crying. The girl's mother was the one to open the door. She starts screaming at me and firing off questions before my neighbors intervene. I tell everyone exactly what happened, and my elderly neighbors blew up at her, not me. They screamed at her for being so irresponsible and negligent, how they could have been hurt. The mom tried throwing blame on me, but they weren't having it. My neighbors apologized profusely. I go about my day until the husband gets home. He came by and apologized too for his family's behavior, and especially the behavior of his wife. I accepted it and said I understood. They're little girls. I know the allure of magnificent fluffy horses. The mom was at fault for not watching the kids. I'm just glad everyone was okay. The girls were still really shook up, so I extended an olive branch because, well, I was an overexcited kid who liked horses once too, just with a horse mom who knew what she was doing. And I didn't want this to completely traumatize them from being around horses. So the next day I properly introduced them to my Clydesdale, with him in his stall with the inside hatch open and the girls being supervised by their father and me. As if in the barn. They loved it. Clydesdale loved the attention. Everyone's happy, right? Well, except the mom, who took my olive branch's offer to teach them horseback riding, give free lessons and other crap. But her husband shot it down hard, and presumably so did my neighbors. Since then it's been quiet. I did, however, install a second electrical wire on the bottom. Not just on the top, just in case. And yes, they did test it. 7-year-old got zapped pretty good and got in trouble with her dad. Aside from that, there have been no incidents other than them wanting to pet them when I drop evening feed once in a while. Here's hoping it stays peaceful. But seriously, don't go up to animals you don't know. And it has come to my attention that I have not paid the pet tax. My sincerest apologies.
Mum uses my locked private diary, and only true safe space as her daily reading material. When I was a preteen, my mom gifted me a diary with a tiny lock and keys. I hid the keys, taped them in hidden places, and began using it almost immediately. I was a bookworm and loved reading and writing. I was also quite neglected as a child, so my diary was the only place I could express myself and feel heard. I read my last entries, and that allowed me to reflect on my own thoughts and actions, and learn from past situations. It was honestly really great for my mental health. For a time, my mood and mental health improved. Time passed. I couldn't tell you how long. Probably a few months. Shortly after, I wrote an entry talking about my first wet dream. A few seconds of feet peeking out of bed sheets. Nothing truly NSFW. My mom got furious at me and confronted me, full on screaming. She sat me in the living room as she towered over me, screaming at my face, asking me if I thought this was normal. That I was having depraved thoughts no child my age should have for a preteen. Really, it was actually perfectly normal. That I had promised no sex before marriage when I was 5 years old, and that this was clearly going against my word, that I was etc. I tried to defend myself at first and protest, not understanding how she even knew about it, but she took out the unlocked diary as proof of my depravity, and my attempts at defending myself, it was just a dream, just fueled her anger more. I sat there silently crying, answering quietly whatever she wanted me to say to whatever she asked. As nothing else would stop her escalation of screaming. I felt betrayed. My locked diary was my only safe place in that home. I was careful with what I wrote in my diary after that incident, and set a few tests to check if I was still having my locked diary read without my knowledge or consent. I did this by writing about innocuous incidents in a way that could have sounded like it was more than it was, knowing it would prompt questions out of curiosity every time. It didn't take more than 2 days for the questions to come. Turns out, she'd hunt for my diary's keys and read it regularly. Needless to say, I stopped using my diary. My only breathing space had been turned against me. I significantly closed myself off from everyone. I felt if even my diary could betray me, then people even less. It was hard not writing. I no longer had an outlet for emotional or psychological relief, but I really couldn't trust anything anymore. After a week or two without any new entries, Mom asked why I had stopped using my diary. If I had dared, I'd have rolled my eyes and asked, "Why do you think?" But I knew better than to attract attention to myself and simply said I had lost interest in such a thing. And it, man, This community is amazing. The amount of support and encouragement is overwhelming and sweet. I really should mention that this was like 20 years ago for those who are concerned. I'm in a really good place now. I put more details in the comments, but I felt I should mention that it's old news here in the main post.
Check out my other stupendous videos.